Okay, we are going to get started. Welcome everyone to our presentation on building an ultimate SharePoint status board. I'm Will Cooper. I'm a SharePoint solution developer, and we're going to go ahead and jump in. I am recording our session. This will be posted on YouTube later today, so don't feel like you have to scramble to take notes. All right, so we're just going to do some high level first, then we'll jump into the main presentation. As I mentioned, I'm all about SharePoint. I build SharePoint solutions. I've been doing private consulting for all kinds of different businesses in SharePoint for about the last 15 years. And I've been working with Infowise throughout that time. At Infowise, our philosophy is about making things simple and about continuously improving. And also, a major part of our tools is that there is no code. You do not have to do any kind of programming to use our tools, so that's very handy. I do lots of things related to SharePoint. I have my own YouTube channel. It's called SharePoint Smart. I hope you'll check that out and look at those videos. There's lots of great learning videos there. Additional to that, I have my own SharePoint site called SharePointDashboards.com. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that at the end of the main presentation if you want to stick around. It's a site that provides additional dashboard templates. We do want your feedback and questions during the presentation. And the way you can do that is to use the Q&A tool in the webinar app. So please load your questions in there and be patient. It may take me some time to get to it, but I promise you I'll try to get to every question before the end of our presentation. Our software toolkit is available both for SharePoint Online and for on-premise. So I'm going to be showing you information in the online version today, but everything you see is available also for on-premise SharePoint as well. All right, before we jump into SharePoint, let's talk about some key concepts related to status boards or SharePoint dashboards, whatever you like to call them. Let's talk about some main goals, things that we want in order to be successful in our organization. The first one, obviously, we want them to be able to look nice. And so you need to be able to control that and be able to add your widgets, your counters, indicators, charts, what have you. You want to be able to roll those all up into a SharePoint page and make it look good. So, of course, that's the biggest win, is to have something that everybody wants to look at. And then we need to be able to do it easily, and that's a major challenge as it relates to dashboards, at least in terms of the options that people are generally aware of. We want to have a way to build up these boards without having to do any programming. We're looking for fast development, we want to build it quickly, and we want an easy interface where there's no programming involved. Those are some important goals. This is kind of the inverse of that, about what we want to avoid. Generally, developer tools would be like Power BI and Power Automate, which I'm sure we can agree are powerful platforms, but they are also highly complex, very developer oriented. And in terms of building dashboards, when you reach for these outside tools, you're going to add hours and hours of development, and it's now in the hands of a SharePoint developer. Generally, in most businesses, that's a scarce resource, and probably they're already covered up with a whole bunch of other projects. So let's see what we can do to avoid heavy external developer tools. Pricing is a major factor. So naturally, if you're a Microsoft customer, and all of us are, since we're using Microsoft 365 and Microsoft tools, their platform is Power BI, shown there on the right-hand side. The licensing model for Power BI is very expensive. You have to have licenses not only for the people who would build a Power BI dashboard, but anyone who even wants to look at it. I showed an example. If your organization wanted to get 100 Power BI licenses, which is what you will have to do if you want all 100 of those people to even be able to see those dashboards, it will cost you $1,400 a month, and that translates out to $16,800 a year. Yikes. That's a lot of money, and that is to pay just for Power BI. That is not inclusive of other functions. By comparison with our tool, This is included with all of our other functionality, including custom forms, action, custom printing, email alerts, you name it. Our entire software suite, it's all included with our licensing, along with what I'm going to show you today. And our cost per month per user in the example given is $2.49 a month, quite a lot lower. And our annual cost would be at $29.88. That is a fraction of what you would have to do in Power BI in the same use case. So pricing is a major factor. And for medium to small businesses, really Power BI is cost prohibitive. Another factor is being able to copy components. Whenever you go about creating a dashboard, you're going to have a series of data. You're going to be doing counts on things like status, and you're going to be going through calendar months, January through December, and there's a lot of series type development. We need to be able to copy configuration and be able to do this quickly. So being able to copy components is a key factor. We also want to be able to include charting. So we do want to get those counts, which is most of our focus today, but additional to that, we do want to be able to also show charts in our UI and make that a part of that status board. We're going to be tracking all kinds of numbers. We need the versatility to be able to handle that. That would include numeric data, which will be counts, total counts of items. We may be tracking the number of days, so that would be date-related data, percentages, as you can see in the bottom there, and money. So we need the versatility to handle those different situations. Now, additional to that, at the very end of the presentation, I'm going to show you even yet some additional options, which you could stack on top of what I'm going to show in the main presentation. This is at my site, the SharePoint Dashboard site. We have lots and lots of options for different progress indicators and charting. So that is an additional combination that you can put in there. All right, so let's go ahead and jump to the main SharePoint site that I'm in, and we'll show you exactly how this all works. And again, just as a reminder, go ahead and put your questions into the Q&A part, and we'll try to get to it when we can. All right, so let's look at our source data. I am here in SharePoint, and that's a key part of this. I mentioned that we don't want to have to jump outside of SharePoint in order to do things. I've got three main lists here of data, and we've got three dashboards corresponding to it, and we'll go ahead and walk through that first. So I've got a support request list. This would be for IT support tickets coming in, and we're doing some tracking on that. You can see how this works pretty easily. This has information about the priority on those tickets, how many hours it's taking to complete that ticket, and then what the current status is, and also a category. So we've got these tickets coming in. I'm the help desk manager. I want to see how we're doing. I want to do some tracking and know what's going on. I want to be able to capture current state. So that's our first example. Let's go ahead and jump to the dashboard and see what we got. Here's our support dashboard, and you can see we've got these little boxes in the page. This is just using SharePoint web parts, and you can add those to the page, and we'll jump to the configuration in a second. So I'm able to just add this Ultimate Forms web part, which show these different counters, and that's all there is to it. So it's very easy to add it just using web parts like most of us are already used to in SharePoint pages. And I can do things like set up the colors and icons that go with it. You can see in the bottom we also have the option to do percentage indicators, so we can see what total percent fall into certain buckets in terms of category, status, what have you. I've got my priority tracking here, color-coded and with appropriate icons. And then we're getting average for hours and our total hours. And to go with it, I've set up a pie chart at the bottom of the page. Really easy to understand concepts. Now, as a help desk manager, I've got that high level. I can just call up a single page in SharePoint, and I can just see how we're doing at any current moment. Another key factor is data refresh. This is going to refresh all the time for you. I have different options on that. If I just want to leave this page here, maybe I want to put it up on a big TV on the side of my room where my help desk team is, I can go ahead and do that, and it will do an auto refresh for me. Oops, I got the same page open. Okay, so let me go to support requests, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how this gets set up. So with our tools installed, it will open up this option. It is free to do a trial of our software, and I do also want to mention Everything I'm showing in this presentation, you can download for free. I'll post it right after the presentation today. You can download this as a template in our system. In our software, this is a particular feature today that we're emphasizing, which is counters. As you can tell from this dashboard, I have a lot of things which I can do with our software. This is just one part of it. Okay, so here is my information on different counter profiles I've set up. So let's spend some time with this. And the thing that I hope that you will absorb is just how easy it is to work with this interface. So those bars, I had those rows going across. We're going to have a profile for each one of those. I just put my title on the top. I can optionally show that if I need to, and then I select which SharePoint list I'm querying data from. Then I've got some UI options. I can control the distance between the different counters on the page. I can set that to whatever I want. Usually default options are just fine. And then also the font size and the label. So that's just kind of your container level setting. And now here we get to the meat of it, which are the counters themselves. So in this case, I just need to get total counts of tickets by different statuses. And all that I have to do in order to do that is just set the label that's going to appear on the box. And then I do some color configuration and options in here. All of it is very easy to understand. I got a color swatch picker. I'm just saying that I want the label color to be white. Just to reference back, I'm working on this box right here where it says requested. We need to count. Generally, all I'm doing is counting records. By default, it just says ID because I just need the number count. I'm not actually having to total up dollar amounts or something like that. And then I only need one condition in order to get what I want. I just set status equals requested, and now it knows just to return back the total number of SharePoint records where status is requested. As you saw with those other indicators, we can show it as a percentage, or I can do trend tracking. I'm going to show you other dashboards that use that functionality. Now I'm down to the icon. Same thing. I just need to set a color, and then the background color is for the box itself. Now, additional to that, I can also have a link. This is very handy. It lets me have a dual purpose function for that. I'll show you what I mean. If I go to this dashboard, well, maybe I want to go to those help tickets that are in requested status. If you notice when I hover over these icons, they change slightly. And now I've got it linked to this filter view in SharePoint. So I've just able to jump right to the requested tickets. So it's not just a passive read-only dashboard. It can link off to that filter data that people want to take a look at. You have complete control over that. You're going to configure that just by putting the link URL at the bottom when you're editing. And you can just paste it in. So you can link off to whichever SharePoint page or view that you want to. And control whether it opens in a new tab. Very easy to do. Now one thing I like that's very handy, in this situation, I want to do a whole series of things based on status for the project. And I can speed up this whole process by just copying. So this example, I can go to one of these and hit the copy button, and I could make whatever statuses I want. In this case, I have 5 statuses, so I can just hit copy like that, and then I can go into each copy, and I only have to change it to the next value. I can say, okay, now I'm doing canceled. Well, I already have it canceled because I'm already covered that. I just changed this like so. Hit save, and then I just need to pick a different background color, and now I've made my next status indicator update. So that greatly speeds up your development process. That's one of my favorite features of this. I'm going to close out of that without saving because I don't want to mess up my data. But this is very handy when you're doing a whole series of counters where you just need to update one part of it and you want to be able to do it really fast. Additional to that, you can also copy the entire profile itself on the main dashboard. I can just hit duplicate, and it'll instantly duplicate, and now I can make an adjustment. This would be handy if maybe I want to do a dashboard per calendar year. I want to make a 2025 dashboard, and then I want to make a 2026 dashboard, and so on. So being able to replicate speeds up development process quite a lot. So that's an example of one of the dashboards. I do want to comment real quick. I mentioned this is going to be available for download later today. Once you get into the Ultimate Forms software, which you can download for free, you can just come to this page, go to our solution catalog page, click on webinars. It's going to be the very first tile that you're going to see in this view. The one you see right now is from our presentation from last month. And you can just download for free. It'll include everything that you're watching me demonstrate right now. All right, let me hop back out. All right, so we had a couple other lists we're tracking. Let's take a look at those. We've got sales data. We're tracking different sales deals that have come in. We want to know the dollar amount, what date that came in. And in this case, we want to do some month-to-month tracking to see how we're doing per calendar month. So you can see I've got some 2025 data. I've got some 2026 data. So now I'm the sales manager instead of the help desk manager, and I want to see how we're doing. So I've got a sales dashboard set up. Let's take a look. There it is. That's a different kind of a look to it. So as a sales manager, I'm interested in different information than the help desk manager. I want to see how much total sales are we doing. Okay, so last year we're at 97,000. This year we're at 89,000. We're trending up. That's good. That's what I want to know. I'm also interested in those categories. So I've got these percentage indicators to help show me what percentage of different categories of sales we're doing. And then here's the month-to-month trend. So that's a new concept. I want to be able to see, as we're progressing through the calendar months, what's our total. Another handy feature there, you can allow for this option to use that K abbreviation. So if we're dealing with big numbers, we can have it abbreviated and it consolidates into the box very nicely for us. And you can see how that works. I've got a green arrow for months where I'm trending up, and I should have a red arrow when we're down compared to the previous month. So you do have the ability to do a comparison for trending purposes in there. Up at the top, you can see I've got a link that takes me to the view. Here we go again. Here's my 2026 sales data. So this is a drill down. I can drill down to my data from my main dashboard. A really handy key feature. All right, let's look at another example. Here's a projects list. So we've got different projects, and projects we're concerned with how are we progressing in terms of the timeline? Are things overdue? Have we missed our target date? That type of thing. And so those are metrics we want to surface to the dashboard. It's a different concept. So here I've got all these different statuses. And in this list also we're looking at priority and budgeting. So a lot of different kinds of numeric data that we want to track. Here's the third dashboard. There's a projects dashboard. Now we're thinking about the number of days that it takes on projects. So we're not always just thinking about totals. Maybe I want to know an average. So you can see that there on average our projects are 144 days. Then I've got a low and high count, and I put icons that make sense for that. And also we're looking at average budget, high and low for the budgets too. This is really completely in your control. Every one of these boxes you can control what you display. So that way you can help facilitate, and you can make a dashboard that's appropriate for a specific team or an appropriate manager. In the next part, we're seeing the different phases that we're into. So we've got counts on that. And then we have a percentage of projects based on their different priority counts using that progress indicator. So lots and lots of different options are available to you. One thing I will comment, I have experience building up data using an alternative approach with Power Automate. And I can describe to you what that looks like in comparison to what I just did here. When I want to aggregate data just using out-of-the-box SharePoint, I have to make a Power Automate workflow to query that data. And it needs to run queries to get items on all these different SharePoint lists. I have to build it up using complex filter queries, and I can only execute it at a certain amount of time. With this functionality, these dashboards can update immediately. They are immediately responsive, both on page load, or also if you leave the page up, you can have a setting to control that. So if I go into the settings for the filter, for the counter controls, I'll show you where that is. By default, it's going to refresh on page load, but you have control over this. So in my example, I mentioned you might like to put this on a big TV on the side of the room so people can see what's going on. You could do that, and then you can control the data refresh with this slider. So you have automatic data refresh. You can control how many minutes that is if you want it to happen responsively instead of somebody having to interact with the dashboard. Very handy. Another thing I showed that's also closely related, and I showed in my first example page, are charting, is our charting options. You can go into our charts web part and play around with that. Here's the one for support status, and there are different kinds of charts that you can do. So here are the different categories that I wanted to put in there, and then you can set this up to get your data and choose different kind of charts. There's loads of different kind of charts that you can try out. So you're not limited just to those boxes that I showed. You can add a bar chart or a pie chart at the bottom of your page and add that along with these counters to build a more comprehensive dashboard. Additional to that, there are loads of great tools. As powerful as that is, and as affordable as that is, just to use this for charting on that. In fact, this is just one segment of our software. The best part of our software, in my opinion, is the custom form builder. It's extremely configurable and dynamic. It lets you build custom SharePoint forms. It would allow you the opportunity to completely eliminate Power Apps forms development if that's something your organization does. Another example of a highly developer-oriented programming-related development process. By comparison, this is fully dynamic. It uses visual controls and no programming whatsoever. Drag and drop style interface. You can set up multi-column form layouts. Very easy to use. A really fantastic feature set. This is automatically included altogether. All of our customers have access to all of our software features with no exception. Other great things in our software include our actions, which lets you do workflow-like capabilities where you can set up automation to make automatic updates to other SharePoint lists, and automated email notification roles. Rather than having to use Power Automate to auto-trigger emails, you can create email profiles directly in our software. Very handy. So there's a lot packaged in there that you can try out. And again, I just want to emphasize, if you go to our website, you can install our trial software very easily. Just go to infowisesolutions.com and you can click on Try Now for free. And you can put in your SharePoint URL, click through the wizard process, it'll install the app. And once you've done that, you can download exactly what I've been showing today. Very fast and easy process. Our trial software is our complete software. Nothing is missing. The only thing that will limit you is it will time out after a period of time, which is 30 days. So you are able to experiment and build your own status board, just like I showed, just to see exactly how it works before you would ever have to make a decision in terms of getting the toolkit. All right, let me jump to the Q&A section. Do you guys have any questions about how this works, our filter functions? I'd be very happy to answer any questions that you have. While you guys are stewing on that, I can go on and talk about some other things. Okay, I've got a good question from Adam. Oh, well, he was asking about the toolkit. Adam, it is required to use Ultimate Forms, which is our software, in order to be able to do this. The good thing for you is there's no developer requirements on that. You don't have to do any programming, so it is very accessible. But yes, this is a part of Infowise Ultimate Forms. If you're curious about other things that you can do with Infowise Ultimate Forms, we have loads of information on our site about that. We do webinars every month, so if you go to resources and click on webinars, you can see examples of all kinds of different solutions we provide. So hopefully you can check that out. I had mentioned pricing. It's definitely very attainable, especially in comparison to what we were talking about with Power BI earlier. All right, I've got another question. Jay, I think that's a little bit out of scope for what we're doing. You're asking if there's information on roll-ups. Yeah, we do have some training information. Just reach out to our support team if you're not sure to where to locate that in our site. Good question. Roll-ups are closely related. That's another feature included in our software toolkit. Thank you, Jay. All right, good questions. So as I mentioned, pricing's on our site. We have tutorials in here that'll help you learn how to use this. So you can click into the tutorials. We do provide free training videos for getting started. Especially I recommend something called a Kickstart training. You can find that in our site in the tutorials. It includes a video and step-by-step instructions for the first time you get into our toolkit. So that would be a very good option for you. Great questions. All right, I'll keep that Q&A open in case people have questions as I continue on. And the next thing I'm going to move on to, I want to talk about SharePoint dashboards. This is an additional tool that you could use in combination with extra to Ultimate Forms. Not required for anything that I just demonstrated. This would be if you want to have more options in terms of what you display on your dashboard. Got another question. Let me just take a look at that. Oh, there's a question about training. Most definitely we provide training. The self-service training, of course, is free. If you want to have an instructor-led training, that is an additional option. We do allow that. You can click on our resources training. What I would recommend to you is to take a look at foundation training. That's an instructor-led training. If you're curious about what content's included, that's described in our website. This is a 5 hours long instructor-led training. You can bring your whole team to the session, and we go in depth on using your tools. A really great option for new customers. Good question, Clint. Appreciate that. Keep the questions going. I really appreciate that. SharePoint dashboards. This is a tool to do list formatting and column formatting in your SharePoint list. There are 237 templates in here. I had some screenshots earlier in the presentation. As it relates to what we're talking about, the things most closely related to it would be these indicator templates where you can visualize data. This can be placed as a part of your dashboard page in addition to what I just showed. All kinds of different options for there, just alternative options for visualizing your data. Like Ultimate Forms, no programming is required. You work through a visual interface. You can adjust the sliders and indicators, set the colors to whatever you want, and it allows you to build up any kind of visualization you want on your data. Like Ultimate Forms, you can try this out for free. In the case of SharePoint dashboards, it's going to give you access to free templates you can use. That'll get you started. It'll show you how it works. In fact, there's 21 templates included there. All you need is your name and email to get started with that. The other component that will be closely related to what we were talking about is different charting options. So Ultimate Forms includes lots of charting options. SharePoint dashboards does as well. And you can see exactly how all these work. Every single one of these templates has a training video that will show you exactly how to set it up. And like Ultimate Forms, you can build all of this directly in SharePoint. You do not have to log into an external tool. These are copy and paste templates. You can simply apply them into your SharePoint list. Pricing on this is very attainable. Unlike other BI options we were talking about, you do not have to get licenses for people who are viewing dashboards with these templates. In the case of SharePoint dashboards, you only need licenses for anybody who wants to build out a dashboard and log into this tool. So you can browse through this site. You can look at examples. My general recommendation is go ahead and try out those free templates, which you can use continuously. And if you like those and you're ready, you can go ahead and sign up for a pro subscription to get access to all of the templates. So that's a little bit of information about SharePoint dashboards. Hope you find that interesting and also check that out. All right, I'm just going back to the Q&A. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop our webinar recording. I'm doing that now.